Senator, is there any gun regulation, any restriction of gun rights that you could accept, that you could vote for?
Well, sure. I think the fact that we have background checks when people buy firearms, and we prevent felons and those with serious mental illnesses from acquiring them, I think those make perfect sense.
So a universal background check is something you could support?
The current state of the law is those background checks are in place when a licensed firearm dealer sells firearms, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement on the quality.
Because 40% of the sales are private citizen to private citizen. That's the loophole we talk about.
Well, except that statistic is actually pretty bogus. It's based on a study before the background checks were put into place, and so that study is highly questionable. That 40%.
I don't know. Wayne LaPierre never questioned that study when I brought up that point. He had a question about the feasibility and collecting records, but there is still a loophole that a lot of people would like to correct.
You know, there actually isn't the so-called gun show loophole. That doesn't exist. Any licensed firearm dealer who sells at a gun show has to have a background check. It's a requirement that applies to every licensed firearm dealer. What it doesn't apply to is personal sales one-on-one, and that's true whether it's at a gun show or not.
Senator Schumer, is this the most...
Look, I'm going to let people decide to run what ads they want. I do think there is a fundamental point here, and there is a point of hypocrisy when it comes to gun control, that many of the proponents of gun control are very wealthy, live in communities where they can outsource police protection. But you have a lot of people that are worried about preserving the safety of their own home. If you're talking to a single woman living in Anacostia who has the misfortune to live next to a crack house, to tell her she doesn't have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms, I think is fundamentally wrong.
Senator, this is a narrower point about armed guards in school. This happened to be an ad that's factually inaccurate. The president's children are protected by the Secret Service, and that's not their own choice. And yet you're trying to make a broader point, which I understand. But you think this is a constructive part of the debate and moving the public mood?
What I don't think is constructive is what the president is doing right now, which is within minutes of that horrible tragedy in Newtown, the president began trying to exploit that tragedy to push a gun control agenda that is designed to appeal to partisans, designed to appeal to his political partisans. Number one, it would have done zero to prevent the crime in Newtown. Number two, many of the provisions are contrary to the constitutional protection of the Second Amendment. But number three, they don't work. You know, Chuck said a minute ago the assault weapons ban was tremendously successful. The assault weapons ban was one of the least successful bills that has ever been put in place. And in fact, when the ban expired, there were roughly 700 murders using all rifles. Today, there are roughly 300. There's less than half. This is not designed to actually solve the problem of violent crime. This is designed to assuage liberal partisans who want to push.
And Senator Schumer, to